Hey guys, it's Ryan, and this is my week 6 makeup video discussing sex and dysphoria. I also took some notes this week to hopefully guide the discussion a bit better and make it more coherent and linear for all of you guys watching. And also, I will be doing it based on a transition timeline, just so you guys have a frame of reference. So, pre-T, um, I did have some dysphoria with my body, but it was pretty limited. Um, it was very rare that I would, look at my body and have any sort of freak out. Um, and I didn't really have any sexual dysphoria to speak of. Um, but I did have um, pretty acute gendered sexual competition issues. And that really came about when I started dating my first serious partner, uh, who identified as bisexual. When we first got together, she was very open about the fact that she had been with men and was interested in women, but had never been with a woman before. So I was like her first woman, and that I don't know, that made me feel kind of weird because I didn't really feel like a woman most of the time, and I didn't really feel like a good representation of a woman. Um, so yeah, we as soon as the relationship turned sexual there, I was constantly comparing myself to her other partners and her past experiences, and I felt really um, very just insecure and jealous. Um, and as that relationship progressed, I became a lot more aware of my gender identity and of my desire to transition to male. And at the same time, her sexual orientation was shifting too, where she no longer really identified as bisexual, but was IDing more as a lesbian, just outright. So that made me feel really weird. Like, it made me insecure in myself too, because as I started to transition, I started becoming way more comfortable with my body and my sexual performance. But then I could tell there was some resistance on her part, because she didn't want me to transition at all. She didn't really ever want to discuss the name change with me. She didn't want to discuss top surgery. And our sexual relationship became very strained. And that finally came to a head because, we were having a conversation and she told me, she was like, I love you, but I'm not attracted to you anymore. And for anyone who has ever heard the words, I love you, but I'm not attracted to you anymore from a partner, you know it is devastating. It, for a little while, like really crushed my self esteem and made me very insecure about my body and my sexuality because at the time, my family wasn't really talking to me very much because they were like so upset that I was transitioning, and her family was also rejecting me, and I was also not out to anyone really. So she was my main source of support, and then that was just kind of fizzling out before my eyes. Um, so I guess I didn't really have any sexual dysphoria, but I was having issues relating to my sexuality because my sexual expression was being repressed, being oppressed by my partner. Anytime I would display any interest in sex with her, I was met with not disgust, but I was definitely met with her disapproval. Um, so that was like really difficult. And that was like that for the first year and a half into my transition. Um, about 2 years after that, that relationship, it eventually just fizzled out. She was becoming very very vocal about her desire to just be with women, and she was developing crushes on women. And I was no longer really invested in the relationship either, because I felt like even though we were together, we were kind of walking on parallel paths to each other. So after about 5.5 years of on again, off again with that person who wasn't really that supportive, I was back in the dating world again. And as everyone knows, for the most part, getting back out there after a long term relationship is extremely difficult sometimes. And living in the Midwest as a transgender person, um, it can be really difficult to even find any sort of dating pool to choose from. Um, so the people that I started to come into contact with, the women that I was meeting, were all women who didn't really have any experience with transgender people, but they identified as queer or lesbian. Um, so I did that. I had a crush on someone who identified as a lesbian, and she identified as lesbian, but she also expressed that she was attracted to me physically and personality wise, I guess. Um, but there was like no chemistry there, which I now realize is because I wasn't a woman, and that's really what she was looking for. The next woman I kind of casually started seeing, we did have a sexual relationship, um, but she also, like, after a couple of months into it, there was just, there was nothing really there. It was a relationship based solely on physical attraction, but nothing of substance beneath that. Um, so while it made me feel really good about my body and my sexuality and expressing my sexual feelings, it really wasn't that great emotionally for me. But then after that ended, I ended up meeting my partner, who I'm still with, and we've been together for almost 3 years. And she identifies as queer. Um, she's been sexually involved with men, women, and transgender people. So for the first time, um, I was able to actually be with someone who had experience with someone else who was transgender, and then I could really kind of compare apples to apples for once. Um, and while I felt really good about my body um, sexually, and I felt really good about the way my partner was responding to my body, I was also again facing that same sort of sexual competition um, with this other transgender guy that I had never met before, because I knew that they had dated for a while and she was really into him, and it filled my head with doubts, like, how am I comparing to this person? Because I felt like I had been rejected so much sexually in the relationships leading up to this one, that I was like, I don't know. I was just projecting all this insecurity and doubt onto her, and I was extremely jealous. Um, but that was the early part of the relationship, and it eventually fizzled out. As our relationship took a natural progression and got more serious. Um, I stopped thinking about her other partners less and less, and now it's, obviously we both did have other partners before we met each other, but it's almost like something that happened a lifetime ago. So I've never faced true sexual um, dysphoria, um, as in I'm having sex with someone and then suddenly I just break down and can't perform or whatever. Um, and I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that I am very mentally active, I guess, when I'm having sex. I enjoy it from a physical standpoint. and can definitely be in the moment. But at the same time, there's part of me that's still kind of a detached onlooker. Um, and while that can kind of be a mood killer sometimes, it's also saved me a lot of times when my brain starts to get to that like insecure, jealous kind of place. And I can just, kind of pull back and say, you know what, like everything's fine, Ryan. Like you're just making a big deal for no reason. Like there's nothing wrong. Your partner accepts you. Your partner loves you. Just get over it. And after I kind of have that mental pep talk with myself, I don't have any problems. Um, but it is definitely something that I know a lot of people experience. Even people that aren't transgender, who are in the act of sex with their partner, and for whatever reason, um, you know, they feel really insecure and unsure of themselves, whether it be um, a problem that they have in their mind related to how they look physically, or how their partner is responding to them or not responding to them. And I think it's a very serious issue, and I think it's something that people really need to investigate, um, instead of just denying exist. So I'm really glad that this was a topic for us, and I mean, I would really hope it's something that other people could talk about, not just trans guys or people watching this channel, but anyone who is sexual. Like sex in our society is, as much as we see it everywhere we look, um, in our personal lives, it's still a pretty like hush hush taboo topic, and I think that keeps people feeling really unfulfilled sexually because they can't express um, their needs and their wants and their insecurities. So I hope this video is something that can be used to prompt other people to start talking about their sexuality and their experiences. So I will see you, I guess, tomorrow for my week 7 video. See you then.